conversation. And we are recording this here. And so we're going to have these the fourth Wednesday of the month at the same time, 6 o'clock is what our plan is there. So this month here is on state preemption and community rights. And on March 27th, Wednesday, will be our next one. And we'll be sending out information about that soon that we'll have to do with our what we call the regulatory fallacy. So again, are just a couple of things. Please keep your screen on mute and I mean your microphone, except if you're speaking. So if you have questions, feel free to type those into the chat. We'll try to get to them. If you'd rather ask the question in person, ask it. So please raise your hand and we'll try to get to it. And we ask that if you ask the question, just to be succinct about it so we can be efficient in our time usage here. And like I said, be patient because we've got Athens community group there and they'll be explaining about their issue of preemption. First, we'll start off. Okay, so let me let Sarah Koya introduce the people there in person at the Athens Community Center joining there, and then we'll get started. So go ahead, Sarah Koya. You have to unmute yourself.
All right. Hello, everybody. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. I'm Sarah Koya Bryant. My good friend Don Wertschafter is helping me. We're just hosting this event here in Athens. We have some locals that have joined us too. State preemption is no secret to us, especially with the recent plastic bag ban that we enacted with our own rights in Athens to protect nature, and the immediate response of our Attorney General to sue us, even though they're not suing some of the other communities that have enacted similar laws. So, and of course, we're one of the 3 county charter counties that was kept off the ballot when we tried to charter our county to assert our rights to protect nature countywide and not just in the city. So we're happy that everyone came out today. We appreciate you coming out and everybody on Zoom, and I hope we can have a good conversation about preemption. And we're going to watch this short video that CELDEF put out. If you're not familiar with CELDEF, it's the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund. And they help us and they help communities around the country that are working to protect nature, and also just to assert local control and self-governance and our own sovereignty through our local actions that we can take. So,
okay.
Are you playing the movie, or we?
Yeah. So at this point, if Sherry wants to share the film, I think we would be ready to, or I mean Susie that has it.
So you assume you've all might have watched it, but just in case, we're going to show it again. It's less than 5 minutes, and then it's a quick film like it's on preemption, and then we'll get started. Okay.
All right. Let's see it up there. Susie, we don't have any.
No audio now, Susie.
Yeah, can you do that, Miles, for us?
Susie, the audio is not working right now. So
preemption. We're talking about preemption.
There it is.
Fantastic. Hello and welcome to Fast Act Friday, brought to you by the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund and their non-legal advice giving communications team. Today we're breaking down state interference with local democracy. Hold on, that's let me check my notes. Preemption.
This one is
about preemption. Fantastic. Now, there's a whole lot to talk about with this one, and it even comes with a legal warning. So hold on to your seats, humans of Earth. This one is a page turner. Let's start with the basic definition. The preemption doctrine is the idea that a higher authority of law will displace the law of a lower authority when the two authorities come into conflict. In the US, this doctrine usually means that federal law trumps state law, which both then trump local law thanks to the supremacy clause. Preemption is often argued to be a neutral doctrine, but increasingly lawmakers in states within the US are proposing and enacting laws and ordinances that would, in effect, remove power from local communities to protect themselves. In reality, every community is different. Population, economic conditions, demographics, all of these differences mean that the policies that may work best for one community just doesn't make sense for another. That is why local government exists. It was created to accurately reflect the unique views and values of the people who live there. Let's break it down just a little bit more. There are two main types of preemption: express and implied. Express preemption occurs when a federal law expressly states that it is intended to preempt state and local law. State laws can preempt local laws too. Let's look at Ohio. In 2019, the Ohio budget incorporated a section that reads, nature or any ecosystem does not have standing, and no person on behalf of or representing nature or an ecosystem shall bring an action in any court of common pleas. Those two sentences obstructed several local initiatives that were on the path to qualify for county ballots or had already been voted on and approved by residents. Implied preemption occurs when a court decides that even though the federal law doesn't explicitly state it preempts state law, it nevertheless does. For example, if a state law required all widgets to be read and a federal law stated that no widget could be read, the state law would be preempted because it is impossible to comply with both laws and still make those adorable little widgets. Industry lobbyists have successfully pushed state lawmakers across the country to put their interests and profits ahead of allowing local governments to support a clean environment, local democracy, and safer communities. We see an increase in states passing preemptive laws across the country. In 2009, Virginia had preempted local governments from passing laws impacting some of the most basic aspects of local life. Virginia's issues fall under things called floor and ceiling preemption. Floor preemption is where the federal government or state government sets a minimum level of protection below which states or local governments cannot go, like federal minimum wage. Ceiling preemption, on the other hand, is where the federal or state government sets a cap on how much state or local governments can protect people's rights, health, and welfare. Even the Center for Disease Control has identified ceiling preemption as a barrier to public health laws. States have historically set their protective laws as minimums, and cities have been able to localize and, when necessary, build and strengthen those laws. Ceiling preemption has no legitimate function in a system of law where government is supposed to protect its residents. When preemption is used by corporations as a tool to take away power from local democracy and to diminish local power and decision-making, we all lose. For more information on state interference and preemption, head over to celdef.org. Thanks for tuning in, and a special shout out to all the lawyers who looked this one over for us, but then told us we had to say, this is for information only and shouldn't be taken as legal advice. We appreciate y'all.
Okay,
So,
go ahead, Sarah Koya.
so for our community, some of the things that are very familiar about the state preemption that was just mentioned in the 2019 budget bill, where it said, where they decided to insert the clause, no person shall represent nature in court, was a direct response to the Athens County Bill of Rights Charter and the MEGS Charter and the Portage Charters, which had to do with us wanting to raise the tax on the oil and gas industry, dumping their waste out in Torch, for instance, you know, or just being able to have local control over our government, and having that charter would pull it together. So Donnie, did you have some other things that you wanted to add about state preemption?
I do. See, my problem is that it was on my computer back there, but I think I figured out I can do it from my phone. So be patient
Okay.
for one more
All right.
technical thing.
Well,
Preemption comes from the Ohio Constitution, or the home rule comes from the Ohio Constitution. It, in section 18, it says that municipalities have the right to home rule in their jurisdictions. And so what it does is it says that since these are constitutionally enacted powers, the legislature has no power to really take these away, but they have a lot of potential for enacting laws that have the effect of taking it away. And so my slideshow then went on to talk about what was implied in explicit preemption. The explicit one was this gun control law they enacted after the NRA spent millions of dollars on lobbying and suits before they spent it all on Armani suits. And but the NRA got 42 of the 50 states to enact preemption laws in 2 years that took away local control over guns. And there's a lot of cities that felt they needed much stronger gun laws. And so there were suits in Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland against the state. And even these big powers of the cities have not managed to overturn the preemption that the state legislature explicitly gave to gun control laws by going through, and I had it laid out for you, where the law says it was the intent of the legislature to enact uniformity, and it explicitly said that any local law was null and void.
Okay. Sarakoya? Okay, that sounds like Donnie.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
right.
I think you're getting into a lot of things that we have, but at first I'd like you to just talk about specifically your Athens issue about the bags, so that people understand the history of
Okay.
it there and
Well,
all of
that's
that.
what-
And then we can get into the questions that we've got, and then get deeper into some of the main types and topics of what's been happening and who it benefits and why. Yeah.
All right, so then we have an implied preemption, which would be the legislature in one part of the legal law saying, oh, here's what an auxiliary container is. And then a whole nother place saying, oh, well, everybody's got the right to auxiliary container. And then having our state government, our Attorney General Yost, saying, oh, well, this enshrines the right to plastic bags in our state law. And it goes from there, that they're trying to enact or trying to wipe out our Athens ordinance that isn't contrary to that law.
Right.
And there's all these different ways that the city is probably going to be able to say, this isn't really about, this isn't well, whatever. This is local control over sanitation. The traditional areas of local control were security and sanitation. These are things that you need local answers for. You need them quick. You can't wait for the stadies to come in. And this is 150 years ago when they designed this, and the stadies would have had to come in by horse and buggy. So, I mean, that's why we have local control written into these things. And if we can term this thing as sanitation, these things are a mess. We go out in the field and there's weight bags everywhere.
Yeah.
That
They're a
is
danger
a
to our
reason.
nature.
Yeah, it gets into ducks and animals eat it and all these things. And phrased that way, I think the city's got a lot of power to control these things, especially because the state hasn't really created a statewide scheme for dealing with trash or dealing with this or that. I mean, there's many examples of clashes with home rule. The one that we know best down here is over fracking, where municipalities tried to ban fracking, And the state said, oh, no, oil and gas controls oil everywhere. And local laws trying to restrict fracking do not apply. They cannot, they're preempted by state law. So that's just a quick introduction to the issue of preemption that I didn't think that the film really gave.
Right, yeah,
Well-
just specifics, like what Dottie's saying about when the state preempted whether or not we could outlaw where frack wells go. That was in 2004, right, Bill? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
2004. Yeah.
That's when the state made the decision that only the ODNR gets to decide where oil and gas wells go. And it took it out of the hands of the local leaders. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I think with the video, it was kind of non-specific. So Donnie was trying to cite some specific examples of preemption. I think it's interesting with the plastic bag ban that we have, because we already had passed our Clean Water Protection Act in the city of Athens in 2014. You worked on that, Melena, right? Yeah, 10 years we've had a rights of nature and a rights of sovereignty on our books in Athens. And I think that we should, yeah, pass by a large portion of our community supported that. And I think that should be enough already for us to say, hey, we have the right to protect our nature. It was already in our books before the 2019 bill that they passed enshrining auxiliary containers. I think it's interesting that Yost used the word enshrining the rights, because rights are not enshrined in law. Rights are enshrined in the Constitution. So he's not enshrining anything in the law. So just to be clear about that, I think it's misleading when people talk like that.
Okay.
So, because laws can be modified, rights should be, unfortunately, they have to be demanded.
Yeah. So Sarah Coy, I'd like to, because I send out questions for the people before, just want to, just for like the first question we had about the two main types. I know they sort of gave in the video two types, but what I was referring to is what's the floor preemption and the ceiling preemption. And what we've got here is when they say no community can ban plastic bags, that's a ceiling preemption. You can't go beyond that. But they mentioned in the video that a floor preemption says, like, for instance, the federal government says that, okay, the minimum wage is a certain level, but then states can raise that. And so we also would like cities to be able to do that too, but then the state has banned cities doing it. So one of the other question, like the second question I had, and you've already mentioned some of the other types of preemption that has happened in Ohio, like the oil and gas, like communities used to have some say over oil and gas, and that was taken away 2004, given to Ohio Department of Natural Resources. The minimum wage is one that, of course, every city's different, and we wanted to have different minimum wage. That was preempted. You mentioned gun control. You mentioned the plastic bags. Of course, that's one of your issues there. And the 2019 budget, where they snuck that in, that was really a reaction to the Lake Erie Bill of Rights, to say that nobody could bring a lawsuit on behalf of nature withstanding in a municipal court. So does anybody know of any other ones? There are a few other ones there that just to give people the idea of how widespread this is. If you know of any other ones, put it in the chat there. Otherwise, I can list them here. So just want to know if people have some other ideas about things that have been preempted or are planning to be preempted.
Traffic light cameras.
The what?
Red light cameras.
Okay, yeah. Okay, puppy mills. Yep. Puppy mills is one. Another one people might know.
The city of Columbus recently decided that they didn't want to have flavored tobacco in their town. So they banned flavored tobacco. They said this is getting into the hands of our children. We don't want it here. And the state, because of the tobacco lobby, said, no, you can't ban flavored tobacco because every commercial tobacco seller has the right to sell it in the state of Ohio. So you can't just have one city that says no because it's too confusing.
Yeah.
And then recently, the entire state legalized cannabis, and there are little towns like Waynesville is one of them that has their city council said, oh, well, we're not going to allow for any new commerce concerning cannabis for a year. And the state didn't say anything like, oh, you can't tell people they can't sell stuff. But with the tobacco, they could. So that's the irony of state preemption. And it makes it very clear that this is has to do with money, from the lobbyists, because, maybe the people in Waynesville, they don't have a big group of people lobbying for cannabis, but they do at the state level for tobacco.
Well, yeah, just to mention, yeah, so that people know that, yeah, not only they've said that you can't ban flavored tobacco, but they're allowing municipalities to, if in the future, they could ban marijuana. So
Yeah.
isn't that hypocrisy? On the one hand, you can ban this, but on the other. So the same thing has done with oil and gas, but municipalities can ban solar and wind, but they can't do anything about oil and gas. So
Yeah,
there's another
very
hypocrisy
true.
of the way the system is set. Just to bring people, there's a few other things that have been banned. There was one that had to do with like for cell towers and where those could be. That was all tied up in a bill that was they're supposed to be single subjects, but they put that one in there. Another one that they've got in the legislature right now that everybody should know about is ranked choice voting. A lot of states throughout the country, Alaska being one of those, and other ones have used ranked choice voting in other cities, but they're trying to ban that one right now too. So this just shows you the depth of all of this here. So
Hey, Bill.
yeah.
Bill, I wanted to go into the chat because people
Oh,
were
yeah.
talking about there's the menthol flavored tobacco legislation,
Yeah.
and Ivanka said, big tobacco has been giving a lot of money to the legislators. Yeah, legislators along, oil and gas, big pharma, big ag. Someone said that Cleveland tried to enact a gun law that the state took away. And Joe had said, and I'm curious, how can state government preempt local laws that are already in place? Is that, an example of the, I guess, the ceiling preemption where just, even though you enacted it, now it's no longer valid?
Mhm. Yeah, well, yeah, it seems to me, just my opinion is that, well, most of these, yeah, that are being enacted now are ceiling preemption, just trying. And what's the impetus for them? It's mostly coming from big business and corporations and financial interests, right? That have sway with our legislature, and so then they, go ahead and say, yeah, we just like rent control is another one. That's another one that's happened recently that I think Columbus, Cincinnati, and some other cities were wanting to enact some rent control. And the legislature, the big developers got a hold of them. They said no. So there's another example that we're supposed to have this right, things that have to deal with our health, safety, and welfare in our communities, and then it's taken away whenever they feel like it, whenever big business comes about there. Yeah, Tish has mentioned about the LIBOR. I mentioned that the Lake Erie Bill of Rights, and so that also impacts a lot of other community rights things that have been passed or tried to be passed that said that nature has rights to exist and flourish. What now? Another question that I had that I'd sent out is, okay, whose interests are being served by enacting these things, and what's the justification that when the legislators use preemption, what's the justification that they usually give? Even though people say, well, wait, we're supposed to have home rule rights there. So why do they, what does anybody want to offer what they think they've heard that legislators say?
Donna's answer there is a pretty average answer from the state, that there should be consistency statewide. So if we let
Yeah.
one city change something, there will be mayhem, and law enforcement will never be able to figure it out. And,
Right, right. Well, isn't that funny that, yeah, they talk about a patchwork of laws. Well,
mhm.
you know, but who does that serve? That serves businesses, it's the interest. But what about the people who live there? Shouldn't the laws serve them? Shouldn't the laws be made to serve the people? And when they talk
should.
about patchwork of laws, how come the federal, the states all have different laws when it comes to so many things? And businesses have to deal with that. So they don't complain about that. But when it comes to the local municipalities trying to say we have something that we think is right for our city or our community, they say no, that conflicts with business.
Right.
So the state even has different definitions than what we use locally. Because like I do some environmental justice work, and in the state of Ohio, in their environmental realm, disenfranchised communities don't mean
No, it's
communities that
same.
are
Oh, it's
disproportionately impacted. It means communities of residents of 10,000 people or less, which means that largely
Yeah, the
majority minority communities are left out of the loop around dollars to address the inequities that are happening in those communities.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Let's see, other things, anything, other things coming in the chat there? Anybody else want to add to what we've said so far about this?
Did you have something to add, Melena?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Melena's with us here. She worked on our Bill of Rights for Athens. We have a good crew here.
Well, more importantly, I'm one of the 7 members of the Athens Rethink Plastics group, who is the group that 2 years ago brought this to our city council about this plastics bag ban. We have worked very, very hard, and I have to say that there are 3 of us out of the 7 who have extensive background. One is a retired nurse. I'm from home health and hospice. Another one is a retired assistant, physician assistant. So we have a wealth of experience in the healthcare field. It isn't just the environmental degradation that is caused by plastic bags that has been a great concern to us, but our committee has been really heavily concerned. And I've read David Yost's complaint 3 times. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't specifically refer to this, but I remember his complaint focusing a little bit on the health and welfare of the residents here. There is no, I mean, you could not miss in the last 2 months, I would say in the last month, on the local, regional, state, and federal levels, the amount of information, scientific research that has come out about fetal tissue and all sorts of tissue, human tissue and human welfare that's being degraded by the amount of plastics, microplastics that are in our systems, from plastic water bottles and everything you touch, which disintegrates as soon as you touch it in any kind of grocery shopping experience or anything else. So it's not just an environmental issue about why we want to stand up against the state in this particular case. It has to do with the very thing that Dave Yost's complaint is about, which is guaranteeing the health and welfare of our residents here. And we have fought for this. We have taken it to council. Council agreed unanimously. Our mayor agreed, the service safety director, across the boards. We wanted to protect the health and welfare. We were not trying to ever make it difficult for consumers or for retailers or anybody else. And let's be honest, nobody has a constitutional right to having a single-use plastic bag.
Exactly.
It is strictly, in fact, plastic bottles. And I'll tell you, this is what I've said in many instances when we have given out when we've given out alternatives to plastic bags free of charge to our community at many retail locations here. If the petroleum industry wanted to give you water, juice, milk, any other liquid in anything but a plastic bottle, they damn well can do it. They can put it in cardboard, aluminum, or glass. They won't because it's cheaper to do it, and they can make more profits from putting it in a plastic bottle. And don't kid yourselves, that's the bottom line here.
Yeah.
It's profits first and greed first, and to hell with our health.
Why do you think that,
Yep, that's right.
Sarah Coy, Marlene, why do you
Marlene
think
is
that
right, yeah.
Yost is suing Athens rather than Cincinnati?
I know exactly
Jackson?
why they're suing Athens. I can tell you why. Because the Republicans in this state put together a special election in August of last year and the August in the previous year. The Democrats didn't ask for that. The Republicans spent millions of dollars of taxpayer money to have those two elections specifically about the supposed abortion issue. They lost at the polls, and they lost. And if you look at the per capita base of who supported or who really came out against that, it was Athens. It was little Athens. Per capita, that's who voted. And they know that, and they hate us for it. And they know that we've got this bag ban. I know it sounds like some, far stretch, but this is how these people think. They don't have anything better to do in their glorified offices sitting up there. I'm telling you.
But I also think maybe they look at us here and they think, we're a poor community. Maybe we don't have the resources that
probably
Bexley or Cincinnati would to fight back. So then they want to establish some sort of precedence by picking on us. And then they can take that precedence to the Bexley court and say, oh, but we know their plastic bag ban was against our auxiliary container rights. So ours should be too.
And Bill, I'd like for everyone. We have researched this. Our little 7-person committee has been researching this for over 5 years. I mean, researching in detail, extensive research, not just by media. Kroger, one of the largest retailers in the entire world. I met with their regional representative for the last 3 years. The Sierra Club and I have met with those people because they have had, as part of their sustainability plan, this is not just nationwide, this is globally. It has been part of their sustainability plan to ban all plastic bags from their stores, no matter what name they go by 2025. We wanted them to step up to the plate and do it a little bit sooner. Now, what is Dave Yost and the rest of the world going to say when Kroger goes through with their sustainability plan next year and bans all plastic bags from every single Kroger or affiliated store across this globe? Who's going to stop them from doing that? Dave Yost, the petroleum industry? Let's be serious.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, another question to people to think about is, what about our principle of democracy that we're so-called supposed to have? If we don't have democracy where we live locally there, like being able to decide in a community for our health, safety, and welfare without being preempted, doesn't that conflict with our notion of democracy?
Yeah.
Does it make a mockery of it? It seems like. Yeah.
Well, because we, lack local control, it's hard to, really feel like we have a democracy sometimes. But I think into our constitutional rights is health, wellness, clean air, clean water. And it's people like us that show up, that question, people like Milena that fight this. It's going to be the only way that we hang on to any of our constitutional rights, because they'll slowly be pulled away if we can't remember that all power should be vested in the people, and we are the people that will be able to affect these changes.
And I would also like to mention that in our single ban bag on single-use plastic bags, the language is very clear. It's really, there may be some ambiguity that somebody's going to find, either our law director or the state or whomever. But it's pretty clear about the fact that we did not ever put the language in that required retailers to charge for plastic bags or charge for any other kind of bag. That's wide open. It's up to the retailer and the business to determine what kind of situation they wish to do. Now, may I just tell you this? So our Kroger store is charging 5 cents now for paper bags. Aldi's has never had plastic bags. There are many retailers here who have never offered a plastic bag, and that is their right, and they continue to do so. Now, I've spoken to Ace Hardware, who changed to paper bags, and he reminds us, and I don't think consumers think about this. He said, do these people not understand? And I've taught business classes for years, and I've owned my own business, and I've worked for other businesses. So I know this statement from him at Ace Hardware to be true. Do you think that you haven't been paying for single-use plastic bags when you buy things or any container that you take home with you? Do you honestly think because it's not itemized on your receipt that you're not paying for it? That's a joke. You couldn't have a business where a balance sheet at the end of the year or the end of the month for things you're buying. Everything is. Every single thing is. And so the bottom line is, it doesn't matter what kind of container it's going to be in, you are paying for it, whether you like it or not, whether you recognize it or not. Let's not be foolish about this. Let's tell it like it is. And Ace Hardware said, you know, it doesn't cost us that much more to change from a plastic bag. We want to do it because not only because the law is telling us to locally, but because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, Donna Miller just put that, let's see, what was it that, was it Donna Miller that added? Yeah, that Giant Eagle removed single-use plastic bags from supermarkets in Erie, Pennsylvania, Carmen, Indiana, stores in Cuyahoga and Central Ohio, as well as all GetGo locations. So they can. So then a lot of people might think, well, why is the state so interested in plastic bags if they don't know the connection there? So you want to explain the connection of why that there's this push to try to stop people from banning plastic bags?
Yeah, because it's the, you mean on their part, why it's important?
Why, which industry is where
Well, I haven't been able to look effectively enough into get under the skin of this thing, but I can almost assure you that the campaign contributions to everybody who's run for state office and who will hold state office, God help me if I'm wrong, but you know, I'll bet there's a lot coming in from the petroleum industry, and don't kid yourself.
Well, see, yeah, that's what I was getting at. It's the petroleum industry, because a lot of people don't know that besides natural, gas, methane gas, I don't want to call it natural gas, and about oil and all of that, plastic bags is a big byproduct of it. And of course, they can keep doing what they're doing if they can make more plastic. God help us that like we need more plastic, but that's where we're at here. Yeah, with that.
We are planning to make more plastic right along our border.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already built one plant in Pennsylvania. The second one, Belmont County, has been in contention for years now. Down in Wheeling, the third one designed for Parkersburg, fourth in Cincinnati, and fifth in Louisville. If these cracker plants all become, and they start storing this ethane underneath the Ohio River in these old salt mines, we are totally screwed completely.
Yeah. So one of the things that so then people might say, well, what can we do about this here besides raise hell with these legislators and say more and more they're removing our rights, our democratic rights where we live. So what can we do about it there? So brainstorm some ideas if anybody has some, and then also I have a couple that I can mention here too, that what we've tried to do.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi there. I'm Wenda. I'm running for state representative. And I think what Melina says is so true about the money. I've looked at some of the finances, particularly the fellow who is term limited in the district I'm in. And it's shocking that he has $1,300,000 in his war chest throughout the year, the last year of him He's got this year and the previous year, 2023. In 2023, he was getting about $100,000 or about $10,000 donations about twice a month, even though he's term limited. And these are all from big organizations. So one of the solutions I see is all of us fighting strongly against the Citizens United decision. Do something for campaign finance reform. As a Democrat, it's very hard for me to compete against the money that flows into Republican coffers. So please, campaign finance reform and also redistricting, two very important parts.
Okay, thank you. One thing
I wanted to add at the local level, I'm from Youngstown, and in 2017, we enacted a Bill of Rights for a free and fair election, and also to try to keep campaign money out, and it was kept off the ballot. We had to go to the Ohio Supreme Court, and it was not allowed to be on the ballot. So definitely, you know, all change starts at the local level, and both parties definitely benefit from contributions from large corporations.
Yeah, well, just to piggyback on that, Susie, like this bill that's in the State House about banning ranked choice voting, like, well, if people want to use it locally, why shouldn't they have the right? That's got bipartisan support. There's a sponsor, a Democrat and a Republican there. So yeah, it's not just one party there. You're absolutely right there with that. Just one thing I wanted the people to know is that the Ohio Community Rights Network, we got approved. I don't remember, was it 9 years ago, 8 years ago? Tish will probably know better. I forget right now, but 2 state constitutional amendments that you can read about. Maybe Susie could probably put the link in the chat there, one or the other. That one is called the Community Rights Amendment, which basically says that communities should have the right to make decisions that impact their health, safety, and welfare locally, and not be preempted as long as they're not making laws that would take away rights guaranteed to individuals. I mean, individuals, people under our Constitution. So as long as you're not doing that, you should be able to decide locally on these things. So that's the one. And the other one is, a lot of people don't know that people who live in townships and counties but aren't in a municipality, they also don't have the right of initiative and referendum. And our second one would do that. Now, the challenge is for us to get enough signatures to get it on the ballot. You know that just like these state constitutional amendments that have passed recently, they require a lot of money and organized effort and people on the ground, which we don't have. So we have tried to find legislators, and we're going to continue working on that to at least introduce this, to get a discussion and some opposition to what's going on in the state house. That there's more and more of this, trying to stop the people where they live from making decisions that seem to be only a problem with business, but they're impediments for the community there. So just wanted to let you know about those.
Someone had mentioned Citizens United just a minute ago, and I think that's really important if people aren't familiar with Citizens United, because it's a national movement, and it is that money is not speech, corporations are not people, and it has been signed on to by a lot of our by several state representatives, probably I think 50 something around the country at least. So it's not nothing, but it's a start.
Yeah, Sarah Coy, I think that's called Move to Amend. That is calling for those two things, which seem common sense. Corporations shouldn't be considered people under the law, and money shouldn't be considered speech. So that's the Citizen United thing. That's right. Yeah.
What's Fish saying?
You know, we
Bob,
have-
Bob
I
Grayson
see
has his
that-
hand raised, so, yeah, Bob, go ahead there.
I see that Greg Coleridge and Sandy Bolzenius are on this call, and they can speak to Citizens United issues.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so please, yeah, go ahead, either one, if you would like to say a little bit more about that. Yeah.
And Melena had a comment locally here.
You know, Bill, the other thing is when you asked, why do you think that the state is so interested in this bag ban here in Athens? And I have to remind, maybe a lot of our viewers don't know this, but I'm one of over 70,000 people who were poisoned by C8 from DuPont in our water supply. Decades and decades of this. And our attorney
Donnie
friend
was
here
too.
as well. You know, over these years, since that successful lawsuit was initially proposed by the Cincinnati group, the attorney who was profiled in the Dark Waters movie,
Yeah.
if you're not familiar with it by any other standard, I mean, there have only been 3 individuals that I know of who have experienced success in getting a settlement from this major thing that's been going on for decades. And I can tell you, having gone to, you know, every few years, they call us all together, our survivors, to go to these gymnasiums, and people struggle in with their oxygen machines and their crutches and their wheelchairs and what have you. I feel like the healthiest person on the block when I attend these things. That's because half of these people are dead. They have died from these 4 cancers that have been identified that's connected to that. So this is not our first go around in Appalachian, Ohio, and West Virginia from being poisoned, unknowingly drinking our water every day. And by the way, that was not just through the Ohio River where they were depositing their waste materials. It migrated through Tupper's Plains and all these water companies into private wells. This is despicable. So I don't like to ever hear from the Dave Yost or anybody else how concerned they are about my health and welfare.
Right.
They can take it to the grave with them, because I'm going to have to take it to the grave with me.
Yeah. I want to respond to a question Donna Miller asked. Are we hooked up with rural organizing? Well, a lot of our community rights groups are not necessarily like from big cities there. We've got some from counties. We've got one from Portage. We've had in the past from Portage County, Medina County, Athens County, as well as Athens City and Williams County that have tried to and then, of course, we have groups in Columbus and Youngstown, Susie mentioned, and Cleveland did as well, and also Yellow Springs, and also Cincinnati is working on a Ohio River Bill of Rights. But yeah, but a lot of ours have been more for asserting our rights to like clean water, air, soil. But like Susie said, there's also the community rights initiatives can be used for things like free and fair elections and other issues like that too. So, but one of them is, the main thing is stopping, or one of the issues is to try to put educating people and put some roadblocks against preemption. Just to say that Pennsylvania has preemption for local municipalities having a say on oil and gas issues, but Pittsburgh passed a Bill of Rights, Community Bill of Rights, back in, I think, 2010 to ban fracking that they want to do in the city, and it hasn't been challenged. So that's still in place there. So imagine that we have more communities trying to go ahead and pass laws that we think are right anyhow. And if more of those happen, then the more people, I think, would be see that what the problem is, and maybe feel some empowerment to do something about the way the system is operating here. Other thoughts by anybody in our
Joe has his hand waving.
yeah, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, Bill and everyone. If you're the powers that be that run this state who needs preemption. You can totally ignore state Supreme Court rulings on unconstitutional school funding. You can totally ignore state committees or state passed legislation for anti-gerrymandering. No one has ever cited the legislature for contempt, locked them up and let them loose only after they've solved the problem. It just doesn't happen. So they don't even need preemption. They feel they have so much power and money. Look at Larry Householder. May he rot in prison for the rest of his days. He was arrogant enough to just totally ignore, little things like bribes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're okay, Joe. That's is a good point, but you're right. They have so much power. But I think the preemption is more for the who benefits, who pays their bills, which is the big money and the big businesses that say they're the ones who say, "Oh no, we need to drill here, so let's have oil and gas preemption," or we need to raise the rent on these things, so let's ban rent control or plastic bags or you name it. They're from oil and gas. So I think on that, but I agree with you about how they've just been ignoring so many things anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even their single subject clause, they have the single subject clause, so they're not supposed to.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, we have to abide by that, but
Well,
Yeah,
single subject, the one where they allowed recently the fracking in the. Oh, sorry. I think the boy got frozen there. Recently, they talk about what they call Christmas tree bills, where they don't meet the single subject, like with where they've passed to allow fracking in the state parks now. And so now they've just given some contracts to drillers to go frack in some of our state parks. So there's another example of that. But
what about the unconstitutional bills they passed, like House Bill 463, guaranteeing the boards of elections the rights to keep our petitions, our initiatives off the ballot? And they admit that they're unconstitutional and we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, there's so many of these things that all three branches, unfortunately, of the government have gone used against us there. Yeah, so many of our
way back when we thought we could find some relief in the courts.
We did.
Stand up, make a stand, your rights, and then so the system is not broken, it's fixed, and it's working just fine for those in power, and that's why we need a new system. And having good conversations like this and imagining what we want our local communities to look like. And I know Athens has been doing that for a long time. And so that sort of makes me think why Yost is going after you guys.
Sandy has her hand up. Yeah, go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, hi. So I was traveling. So when you mentioned Move to Men, we can get rid of what's happening right now. It didn't always used to be this way, where the big money always wins. There was room for people's interest too. So I put in the chat, and I'll do it again. Move to Men, a lot of you on this already know about it, but Move to Men is working on the We the People Amendment, which would, once ratified, would abolish the idea that corporations are people and money is speech. In other words, only people are people. We are the ones who should be controlling what happens in our government, not big money. Because it's been said here over and over and over again, what's going on? It's the big money behind these moves. They're so illogical. It's just big money. So anyway, I'll put that again. If you're interested, sign or text me and I'll be happy to talk to you afterwards. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Sandy. Yeah. It's and one of the things that I wanted to mention is that we put in community rights and we didn't say home rule, even though home rule is sort of part of that. But what we mean by that is that home rule, which is enshrined in our Constitution since 1912, I believe it is that where locally decisions can be made to, as long as they don't conflict with state law, and they shouldn't, all these things we're talking about, really, because they just they issue preemption afterwards, but, that, officials, who are representatives in our government can, our local municipalities can pass that. But what we mean by community rights goes a little deeper, that the people also can bring with their rights of initiative and referendum the issues that they want, and then get that also on the ballot there. So it's more that they kind of the rules that are made locally there, that they're what the people want too, not just somebody who's also been corrupted in our local governments to put in some laws and so forth. That might mean that it's home rule there. So we mean that the home rule, but it's really coming through the community rights, and the community rights saying that what are the things that are important to them, whether it's free and fair elections, whether it's clean water, air, soil, whether it's having a sustainable future, and many other things there. So yeah. Yeah, anything else that people would like to say here? I know we're getting past the hour. I mean, and obviously we've covered some things there. So I'll just wait a minute and say anybody else have anything to say, and then I just want to close out by saying what we've got scheduled next up.
I see John's hand is up.
Okay, all right.
Go ahead, John. You're on mute, John.
There. Okay, you
John,
got
you're
me
good now.
We can hear you now.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I just want to let people know that we're having a Democracy Day in Toledo, and this will be the 8th year that we've had it. It started out with move to amend, and we moved on to other things like SPAN, the Single Payer Action Network for Ohio, and other pieces of legislation. If anybody's in this area, stop by. We'd like to fill the room with overflow. We'll have tabling there too, if you want to set up a table and let people know where you stand on stuff. My personal opinion and problem is dealing with the Fifth Amendment, taking property with not paying for it. I've been fighting in the state for over 20 years. They took my property, part of my farm. They put in sewers twice already, lied to me about everything.
John is muted.
I have received a check for $67,500, and it was quickly canceled, pulled out of my account. I went to the Bar Association to get a new attorney because my attorney went off in his office and started throwing things, not at me, but all around. I reported to the police station and everything else. Went to the Bar Association here to get another attorney, and they brought my old attorney in. I wasn't able to talk. I brought witnesses with me, and they made a determination that he got all the money. It's sick. It's sick. And I've got a little 20-acre farm here on Route 2 in Jerusalem Township, and I'm sitting back 500 foot, and when it rains hard, it floods all the way up to my house. If I wasn't built up off the ground, I mean, I could boat out front and can't do anything about it. It's sick. So I've had 3 heart attacks already. I've worked well, I ain't gonna get into all the things I worked, but I was on the housing board for 5 years. I worked in the different groups that were in town. The last 8 years, I worked as a health and safety representative with General Motors and the union. And you can't even get an attorney to fight it for you. It's sick.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing that you guys are getting together on this. I seen it, and I wanted to get in, and I ain't going to chime in anymore. But
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hopefully,
Thanks for being
you
here.
know, but we got to get the word out that this government is crooked right down to its soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I quit. I give up.
Thanks, John.
We keep trying.
Sure. One thing I wanted to say before Kathy, I know, has her hand up, is that somebody mentioned about, oh, what's with the gray hippies and we need to recruit young people. Yeah, you're right. And so if you can invite more young people, I know we've got some young people in Athens there. And to get the word out to people, the young people, of what's really going on, because they haven't been getting the true education and what they can do. I know with our group locally, we have used like some Ohio State students that have helped us collect signatures, and they've been very willing to do so in the past for some of our initiatives. So yeah, we definitely need to get everybody involved here. Kathy, go ahead.
I was just going to say, has the Athens group mentioned to the powers that be that are fighting them on their plastic bag ban, why aren't they touching Cuyahoga County, Cleveland with their plastic bag ban? I mean, it's the same thing. So are they bringing that up as an argument, Sarah Coy? I don't know, but.
Yes, we have definitely, we're definitely asking those questions, you know, why us and not Bexley? Why us and not Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Now,
Cleveland's bag ban is on hold, and it's all store willingness. The stores are willingly doing it. The ban is not really enforced right now. It's all the stores. All the stores have made up their mind to do it. They were planning to do it. And so the state can't do anything about the stores, what they decide to do. So, you know, but the official ban is on hold. It's all the stores just willingly doing it.
Thanks for that information. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think that's a great point, that we can see what things that we can get done that don't depend on them giving us permission for it. That we can go around certain things like that, put some pressures on businesses to do it anyhow. So I think that's a good point. Yeah.
Well, I didn't lower my hand, I forgot. But one thing is, in Wyoming, out west there, they have plastic bag bans. You cannot get a plastic bag at a store. If you need a bag and you didn't bring your own, they'll give you a paper bag and they charge you like $0.25 for it or something like that. But there's no way you can use, they don't have plastic bags, and you're supposed to bring your own. So if you want to pay for a paper bag, you have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So why can't that be done here, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead, Milena.
So Bill, this is Milena again, and I'd just like to say that in a way, I don't want to use the word preemption, but in a way, we have preempted the state, perhaps not because of the law that they previously had, but in fact, this whole complaint by Davio is so farcical because it comes so late in the game. We have, and I mean we are 7-person committee, we have personally solicited 90 businesses in this town, every big box store, most of the small retailers, and I'm not just talking soliciting, I'm talking about spending a long period of time. We've got a business owner here, in fact, tonight, who's one of the businesses we have solicited. We've talked to them about this, the changes before the ban came about and since, and we discussed the hardship and all the factors, and in fact, since, to see, and most of them, in fact, very few have not been compliant. That was in January, and they were compliant long before January January. They
Yeah.
made their purchases and their switchovers. So now I don't know what the state thinks they're going to expect of all of these businesses in Athens who are not going to go back to single-use plastic bags, no matter what the state decides. Their complaint is moot.
And
Yeah.
one of the two businesses that was mentioned in Yost's complaint had originally been resistant to changing over to paper, but then later had made the adjustment and actually didn't have a problem with it in the end anyway. So the bookstore said they were fine, and and then they got quoted in this article or in this complaint by Yost based on a prior article when that wasn't even really their concern anymore at the time. So it's a huge overreach. It's the state meddling in our affairs.
Yeah, exactly. Shouldn't
We're to stand up and say no. And the other thing that Milena and I both worked on, the original Clean Water Charter, the Clean Watershed Protection Act that we have in the city, that already enshrines our right to protect our nature, which should preempt any auxiliary container definition of trash that Yost comes up with. Because if you ask me, his argument belongs in that definition of trash area.
Yeah. Well, good point. Well, if anybody, let me just say this, and then if anybody has any last minute things, if not, I just want to thank everybody else, everybody for joining us. And I especially want to thank Sarah Koya for organizing it with the group in Athens there. Let's keep together, keep informed. We are planning, like I said, to have one of these community conversations, invite more people for different topics, the fourth Wednesday of every month. And our next one will be Wednesday, the fourth Wednesday, which is going to be March 27th at 6 o'clock. And we'll be, like we did here, we'll be sending out a short video, or it could be a article or something related with a few questions for you just to be thinking about, so that we have a engaged audience that already got your brains working, and have a good, fruitful conversation. So you can always, Susie's put in the chat our website there, OHCRN.org. Also, since you've registered for this, we'll send out the information about our next one that you can register for, like this one here. That one, I don't know if, Susie, we're going to have any people in Youngstown in person, or if it's all going to be in Zoom there, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure right now.
Okay.
See how that goes. This definitely went very well tonight with the live. And
appreciate everybody. I think that a good amount of people on Zoom and here. Community rights, it's something that shouldn't be so hard to wrap our minds around, because we're brought up thinking, oh, we have our Constitution, we have rights, and we do, until we try to assert them, and then they say, oh, no, you can't do that. So we have to get together, we have to navigate the system and create better laws for our community.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention our book. We wrote a book just about 2 years ago. I put the link in the chat. It's called Death by Democracy, Protecting Water and Life, Frontline Stories from Ohioans Fighting Corporate and State Power. So it's 7 communities that, all started out in the with the position of the government's there to protect us. And then we went from there. So I know I have 2 copies in my local library. So you may have copies there, or you can request one from us if you're interested. It really is a good read.
On our website. Yeah, exactly. It tells what all of our different communities with the different issues have gone through in Ohio. And and to say that some community rights, bills of rights have passed in Ohio, like Athens, as you know, those in Athens. Youngstown has passed. Broadview Heights passed. Toledo had passed until the state took actions. Let's see, Waterville is another one. So there are some others that have. So, but that's one option there. So yeah, check out the website links that are there in the chat. Stay in touch. Look out for information for our future community conversations. And thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. And thanks all you people in Athens for onward. And let's
All right,
keep
thanks
going.
all. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Bye-bye.